Ooh, welcome to the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast. This is episode 22, and this is the self-proclaimed makeover challenge, pay your bet, pay the piper episode here, where later on in the show, well, right away, as you can see, we are fully operational with the makeup. I'm going to give myself a beautiful makeover, courtesy of my daughter. So that all came down. If you didn't know, last week, myself and Calvin had a little side bet going on. I made the mistake of believing in Kirk Cousins in prime time as a QB1 last week, which he would have if he would have turned over the ball. Thank you very much. And the loser is paying up. So while this is going on, the show must go on. And we have another fabulous punishment, humiliation for you guys later on to tune in for next week. But without further ado, let's just kind of go over some quick things here. We got some big news that just came down the pipeline. Le'Veon Bell released from the Jets. Everyone's talking about it. If he signs, I'm personally thinking it's a one-year deal, just to ride out the rest of the year, because here's the thing, and I'm looking at right here on this one. The salary cap in the NFL is going to go down next year because there's no added revenues coming in and gate prices, this and that. Revenues typically go up. Salary caps go up because the revenue being generated by the National Football League, that revenue is not being generated with ticket sales. Salary cap comes down. So a team that's going to commit to Le'Veon Bell is probably going to commit to this year. And I'm going to guess you're probably not going to see a team like the New York Giants go out and sign him. You're going to see, if anyone's going to kick the doors on Le'Veon Bell, it's going to be a team that is in need of a running back, for one. Two, a team that's in contention. And three, a team that's going to pay Le'Veon Bell. Yes, the Jets are paying him $6 million this year, but it's Le'Veon Bell, and if he doesn't get what he wants, he's just going to work on his rap album. Jim, what do you got? Or Jeff, what do you got for us there, bud?
I just saw some information probably 20 minutes ago from, I think, Benjamin Albright, who said it's down to 5 teams: Chiefs, Raiders, Pats, Bears, and the Dolphins.
The Chiefs, the Pats, the Raiders, the Dolphins, and who?
Bears. They just lost Tariq Cohen, so that would make sense. But
oh man, I'm all for the Chiefs signing Le'Veon Bell, just to watch the hellfire that will rain down upon fantasy Twitter on poor Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be beautiful, and I'm here for it.
See, that's why I want the Raiders to sign, because Josh Jacobs' Twitter would just fall apart.
Well, here's the thing. Like, realistically, if I'm the Eagles, I'm kicking the tire not to have him at a running back, but to play him at wide receiver here. Le'Veon Bell is a fantastic wide receiver, and you've got no one. You got Travis Fulgham there, and he's about the only thing. Greg Ward, Jalen Reagor's not coming back. Who says you can't put Le'Veon Bell or Miles Sanders and alternate him in the slot, because they're both fantastic receivers? That is something I would consider doing if I was the Eagles.
I guess the biggest question for me, typically when we see someone, a guy putting on makeup, for instance, he looks like a clown. And maybe Le'Veon didn't do that, but Le'Veon is a little bit of a clown right now. Now, I guess what we're trying to figure out is how much of that is Adam Gase, which is probably what I lean towards, and how much of that is actually Le'Veon Bell, because Le'Veon Bell obviously was upset. He wasn't getting the workload that he wanted, started making some demands, and then that didn't go well. But, part of me wants to just say that is the MO for Adam Gase. And, if I'm a running back with, 28, 29 years old now, he doesn't have maybe as much tread on his tires the last couple of years. So there's nothing I saw from Le'Veon Bell that made me think he didn't have anything left in the tank. I think he's a guy that can contribute for whatever team that he goes to. I do think whatever backfield he goes to is probably going to leave a little bit of a mess. The Chicago one would probably be my least favorite, only because I've been really saying to go and buy David Montgomery. So I really hope that doesn't mess that up. But if you are, I guess if you look at it, if you're Le'Veon Bell and you're not just thinking about it financially, which is probably why he made the last decision that he did. The Chiefs are the team that you want to sign with, right? That is from a standpoint of what gives you the best chance to win a Super Bowl, that's your best.
Does it? Because if I'm not mistaken, last week the Raiders knocked off the Chiefs. So wouldn't that mean the Raiders are better than the Chiefs and basically now the Super Bowl favorite? I'm just saying. They've knocked off the Saints. They've knocked off the Chiefs. Just send them to the Super Bowl already.
It's very true. Well, Derek Carr is the hero.
Derek Carr, MVP. No, I'm not. I don't even believe that. But that's not the point. The point is the Raiders beat the Chiefs. Now the Chiefs, in this world right now, I don't think you can have enough depth at skill positions. You know what I'm saying? Like there's too many people going down. We've seen the running backs go down left, right, and center already this year. And the only one who's going to be standing at the end of the year is this man right here, Frank Gore. Like this is the one guy who will survive the 2020 season right now, Frank Gore. He's going to be a league winner for you too. Just watch. Somehow, some way, Frank Gore is going to end up with 1,000 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns, and he's going to win someone a trophy somewhere down the road. And I love Frank Gore. There's no doubt about it. He's one of my favorite running backs because he's like my age. Going back to the Le'Veon Bell, I think any team would be smart to kick the tires on him. You can get him for probably dirt cheap because the Jets are paying that salary, but more so than any, there's so much uncertainty going over this season. And how you bring free agents in and how you bring these backup kickers, backup quarterbacks into it's like a 2-week wait before you can get them back on the field. You know what I'm saying? So if you can get Le'Veon Bell into your locker room right away and add that depth, I think you have to do it regardless of who you are. Even if you're the Raiders, I don't want to see him in Vegas. Le'Veon Bell in Vegas is probably not a good combination. I'm just saying right now.
Well, and with their experience with Antonio Brown, I almost think I can't even believe they're in the top 5. Like that just seems, even if he's not Antonio Brown, but it just, why even consider it with the background and the chance that he is? I'm surprised they made that list.
I'm just kind of pulling up something here. I'm trying to see if I can find something on Sport Track here.
I've stopped doubting John Gruden. So very well.
It's more like Mayock. Like Mayock, why would you do this to yourself? Like, why would you do it again?
Well, Mayock's all about character players. So this is kind of was interesting with Le'Veon Bell. And this may be more towards is it Adam Gase or is it Le'Veon Bell kind of situation here?
Right.
Miami has the 8th most cap room right now. Since Chicago is 13. Vegas is at 20 as far as cap goes, with about 7.3 million in cap space. The Chiefs are sitting there about 6.5, 6.6. And where is New England? I don't know if you said New England was the 5th team, right?
They have to be pretty low because they have so many opt-outs.
Oh, yeah, they're number 3 with 27 million in cap space. What that all means is we know the salary cap's not a real thing in the NFL. There's always ways to move money. But like our boy there, Jason, mentioned here on the show a couple weeks ago, it always comes due, right? You always have to pay that bill one way or the other. Amber, we're going to get to it here right away. I know this is what you're tuning in for. You don't even care about football. You just want to see me suffer. So we've touched enough on Le'Veon Bell for the night. Maybe we'll talk about him a little bit later. I don't know. But for the first thing we're going to get to here, we're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, Indianapolis Colts. This is a crazy week right now. Every single game except 2 on Sunday is being played in the morning slot. This is a rarity that there's only 2 afternoon games. And that's largely due to the fact that I think most of the West Coast teams are on bye, and the teams on the West Coast that are playing are traveling to the East. So we have one of those rare things where I think there's I don't know. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games in that early morning slot and 2 in the afternoon. But we're going to start this off in Indianapolis with the Bengals and the Colts. And Savannah, come on over. Jeff, hit us with some IDP. Give us some IDP. Give us some offense. Hit us with some injury news.
comment.
By the
Well,
way, Kelvin, I'm going to get you back.
Here we go.
don't worry, he's gonna turn his face so you guys can see the makeover as it's happening. Yeah, I'll start with IDP there with the Bengals. DJ Reader, big news for them. He was ranked as PFF's number 38 interior defender versus the run. He's on IR now due to a quad injury. I think that is a big loss for the Bengals, and it could contribute to a Jonathan Taylor breakout game. Bengals still have Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap coming back. I know they didn't practice today, but those are less days. The other thing going for Jonathan Taylor is Sam Hubbard is going to be out with an elbow injury. Zach Taylor said he's going to miss 2 to 3 weeks or so. And then on the offensive side, we all know AJ Green had the hamstring strain. He re-aggravated it in the game. Taylor said he's going to practice tomorrow, but I don't see him playing this week. He's probably out for sorry about my dogs. Yeah, come here. Yeah, he's probably going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks at least. So I'd lean more T. Higgins. I'm sorry, Calvin. You want to take it?
No, yeah, I got you. So there's actually 3 games this week that are, I think, the ugliest games of the week, and I think this is number 1 for me. It's the 3 games are like not quite as ugly as Matt's starting to look right now, but they're pretty ugly. The Colts and the Bengals have actually both been very good against the pass. So we think about the Bengals and you start saying like, okay, we'll start all your guys against the Bengals, but they've actually been very good. Part of that is I think teams are ahead and they're not necessarily having to throw on them. But like Jeff said, they've been really susceptible to the run. So I do think this is a really good week for Jonathan Taylor. I think Jonathan Taylor has a very, very big week. Couple of quick notes. T. Higgins led all Cincinnati wide receivers in snaps last week in week 5. We are getting to the point, and this is going to be a point to think about for all of these matchups now. With no preseason, we're now getting to that point where you're starting to see a couple of snaps, couple of things that snap percentages, targets. I think teams are starting to figure out a little bit more about what they do, and we're seeing where they want to go with this season. With T. Higgins leading them, he's a central part. There's really good connection between Burrow and him right now. But listen, you're not starting Burrow. As much as I love Joe Burrow, you're not starting him this week. The Colts have been absolutely insane against the pass and the run. Their defense has been unbelievable. But against the pass, they have the second least amount of completions allowed. They have a 7 to 9 touchdown to interception rate right now. The least amount of completions, they have the least amount of yards of anyone allowed in the passing game, including people who've only played 4 games. They've played 5. Teams that have only played 4, they've still allowed less passing yards than those teams. You're really not looking at your Colts. You're really not looking at your Bengals. If you can go elsewhere, you are, except for Jonathan Taylor. And maybe Trey Burton, who looks like he is kind of taking over for Jack Doyle. So, Matt, how are we looking?
It's coming here slowly. So I'm looking at a couple things here. First off, I'm ready to watch T. Higgins ascend to the number 1 role in Cincinnati's wide receivers. You mentioned that snap count here. We know Tyler Boyd's best games come with A.J. Green in the lineup. We know that A.J. Green is – man, I can't even look at myself seriously right now. We know that A.J. Green is injured right now. He's battling a few things. He's not going to be there. He's definitely a guy who's possibly a trade target to be moved from the Cincinnati Bengals here in about 3 weeks or so. What that means is I think that's where T. Higgins comes in big. The thing I'm watching for here, does Joe Burrow continue to fall behind Justin Herbert amongst rookie quarterbacks in the National Football League? Because I put it in paper, I put it to pen. It's in a draft magazine that Justin Herbert is better than Joe Burrow, and I stand by that. And now people are starting to see that, oh, maybe it wasn't so crazy to begin with. People still have Burrow ahead of Herbert. I get it. But I think people thought that gap was a lot bigger going into draft season than what is being shown right now. Herbert has been absolutely fantastic. Joe Burrow, he's going to struggle this week. We know that Indianapolis pass defense has been good so far this year. That's what I'm watching for. The ascension of T. Higgins, because Burrow needs that receiver. He needs that big-time playmaker, and Higgins is that guy, especially in the red zone. What are you guys looking for in particular?
Well, I think to that end, I do want to see if Darius Leonard ends up playing or not. He didn't practice today as well. So if he's out, I feel like that's a little bit of a boost to Burrow at least. And then honestly, if Zach Taylor keeps using Joe Mixon the way he has been the past 2 weeks, I looked at it in the past 2 weeks. Joe Mixon has had 14 targets, while Gio Bernard only has 2. That's a big change. And Gio, I'm so tired of seeing that guy on the field. Mixon is a better pass catcher and better with the ball in his hands, and that'll help Burrow, I feel like. But
yeah, I do like that call. The only thing I'll add, I mean, said a lot there up front. The only thing I'll add is that it was good to finally see Phillip Rivers and T.Y. Hilton look like they were on the same page a little bit last week. Season high in targets for T.Y. Hilton, so that could be a good development for them. Phillip Rivers looks so bad right now. I hope he has something and there's some adjustments that he's going to be able to make. If not, they really need to lean on Jonathan Taylor even more than they already have.
I'm going to struggle here with getting the mouse here on the mute button and unmuting here. So let's just play a little devil's advocate here while we're at it. Top scoring receiver in this matchup, Higgins, Boyd, or T.Y. Hilton?
I'm going to say
Who you
Higgins.
got? Higgins?
I'll say Higgins, but again, this is my number one ugly game of the week. I hate everything about this game. I don't want to start anyone if I don't have to. Jonathan Taylor is going to be the best player in this game. Trey Burton might be the second best. I hate every single person in this whole. There's 3 games like this. This is number 1.
Well, let's move on here to game number 2. Let's head to New England here. A potential suitor for Le'Veon Bell. Apparently, they're in the top 5. And I'm not talking about the Denver Broncos. I'm talking about the New England Patriots as they host the Denver Broncos. And they've got their own running back issues with Melvin Gordon not being able to pay for an Uber cab there the other night and doing about 25 miles per hour over the speed limit. And, so the Denver Broncos may or may not have Melvin Gordon in their lineup when they go to New England this week. What do you got for us there, Jeff?
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't think Vic Fangio even knows. He sent him home from practice today. So at least Melvin showed up, I guess. But I know the arraignment is in a month. And the new CBA states that with the DUI, the first offense is 3-game suspension minimum. So we just don't know if that'll be decided yet. But I would plan for no Melvin Gordon. I would give the boost to Philip Lindsay. He practiced in full. I don't think the toe is going to be much of an issue anymore. Royce Freeman. Calvin, you think Royce Freeman is going to be worth a flex play, or?
I like the idea of Royce Freeman more than I like Royce Freeman himself. I was really big on Royce Freeman when he got drafted. And so I was listening to FF Intervention. Chase Vernon was talking about his fit in this offense, and I started looking into that a little bit, and I think it really did make a lot of sense. But Philip Lindsay is just such a fighter, and I just don't know that anybody can wrestle that job away from him. And if he's actually getting a shot to be the guy, maybe they let Freeman play that Melvin Gordon role, but man, maybe they just unleash Philip Lindsay. And that's, if I have to pick what I'd really like to see, that's what I would like to see happen. What about, I'm really curious is there any updates on Noah Fant? I mean, is that the guy that you think could get back soon for us?
So Noah Fant and Drew Lock actually. Lock practiced today limited. He is trending upwards. Fangio is hoping that he plays, which that would be a huge boost to Denver's offense as a whole. Fant was going through stretches this morning, also limited practice, limited reps. Typical assessment. They'll let him go through a couple reps, see how the ankle responds. If it swells up, then they'll probably shut him down. If he responds well, no swelling tonight, no swelling tomorrow morning, they'll give him more work tomorrow and see how he does. So within the window, I think Fant will return this week.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. I hope we get to see Cam Newton versus Drew Lock. There was a chance that this matchup was Jared Stidham versus Brett Rippon last week, and nobody wanted to see it moved at the last minute there in week 4, but I think we all could be a lot better off with it being moved. And that could mean really good things for kind of the forgotten man, Julian Edelman. I do think New England's going to struggle to run the ball. Denver's only allowed 1 touchdown to the position this year. So, and not a lot through the air either. So I'm really curious to see. I don't think you can have very big expectations for James White or for Harris even. Now, New England's a different team than anybody that they've played so far. So maybe there's some differences there. But I kind of think Julian Edelman might be a guy that is being underrated. Didn't look quite as good last week with Stidham. That with Cam Newton back, maybe you get a little bit more usage out of him.
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at that running back situation there with Philip Lindsay there. I love Philip Lindsay. You watch your mouth there. I love myself.
Every time you turn, like you're like facing the other way, and it's hard to see, and then you turn back around, and it gets me every time. I love it.
So Philip Lindsay, I absolutely love this matchup. If you remember when Melvin Gordon first signed with the Denver Broncos, Philip Lindsay basically said, "He ain't taking shit from me." Philip Lindsay believes in himself. The Broncos still believe in him. He's going to come out there. I think he's going to have a big game against New England. And I see him going for over 100 yards receiving, or I'll say 120 yard total all-purpose yards for Philip Lindsay and a touchdown this week. I think that's possible. And I think Freeman's going to factor into it too in the passing game. If you remember correctly, last year, Royce Freeman was one of the top pass-catching running backs in the National Football League. These are things people forgot once Melvin Gordon came over. So for me, that is what I'm watching. I want to see Philip Lindsay do well. So he's going to be my number one key on this. And the number 2 one is, like you mentioned it, last week it was Hoyer versus Rippon, or Stedham versus Rippon. Now we may actually get a Cam Newton versus Drew Lock matchup. I don't know how close Cam Newton is to playing this week for sure, but if that's happening, then we're actually getting a quarterback matchup that we can actually stomach the rest of the season. So I'm really watching the quarterback matchup for 1, and for 2, I want to make sure I'm seeing Philip Lindsay succeed.
Yeah, Cam was activated from COVID IR this morning, so he should be good, and he's going to practice tomorrow.
Perfect.
Something I saw too on PFF. I don't know how much you guys look at those numbers, but it says Denver's running back matchup is the number 1 easiest against the Patriots. So,
like I said, I'm thinking Lindsay hits easy 120 all-purpose and a touchdown. That's my prediction. I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes. I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes as a RB1 this week. Just some food for thought. What do you got, Calvin? What's the one thing you're watching this matchup?
Is that your bet?
No, I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Maybe we can go back to that. I don't have anything else for this matchup. I think we should go on to the next one.
So let's go to the next one here. Like you said, let's go to the former Houston matchup, I guess the best way to put it. The Houston Texans versus the former Houston Oilers, the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee. Now, Tennessee did not look like a team that's been off work for 2 weeks. 16 days was their layoff from when this whole thing first started. They took the Buffalo Bills to the woodshed, and they spanked them. They put them over their knee and they tan that high like you wouldn't believe. So can they do that to the Texans again this week? Before we kind of get into that, Jeff, what do you got to break down the injuries here that we're looking at? No one should be hurt for the Titans. We still got Corey Davis season's being put on hold a little bit right now because he's still on COVID. But I'm just saying, since Corey Davis season started, the Titans have not lost a game.
True. He also hasn't played much. Actually, for the Titans, I think the biggest note is that AJ Brown had no setback. She needs to add some more color.
The people want more
no
color.
No setbacks.
Where?
7 catches, 2 yards, 1 touchdown, and 9 targets. And honestly, I don't think Houston has any.
Okay. Is that what you're looking?
So, biggest injury for Houston actually is, and you guys would know this more as the IDPers, Benardrick McKinney, who I guess is Houston's top-ranked pass coverage linebacker. So, I think he would be the guy who would be on Johnny Smith.
That's it. So Kyle puts a note down there and says, "Coach, you look fabulous." I just wanted to let you know that he has not admitted yet that you're an expert at anything yet, Matt, but he is saying that you look fabulous with that makeup. Maybe you look more like an IDP expert with that on than you did off. So Kyle, maybe you can let us know if he looks like he knows more now. So Houston, Tennessee, I think the number one thing for me is Ryan Tannehill is an auto start as a QB1 for me this week. Houston has allowed 9 touchdowns. They have not intercepted a pass yet. They've been very vulnerable through the air. The way that Tennessee plays, I think, only Tennessee could go in and be the reason why the whole league is having to adjust their schedule and then act like something is being done wrong to them, use it as a way to play with a chip on their shoulder. I didn't really understand their comments, but hey, sometimes you got to use what you got to use, and that's what they're using. If it helps, look, I'm slotting Tannehill in everywhere that I've got him. Some places where I lost Dak, unfortunately, I'm putting Ryan Tannehill in his place. On the other side, Houston didn't really look like they had very many changes. So I really like that there's some consistency, other than the fact that obviously Brandon Cooks got fed. I think, reading between the lines of some of the comments from Deshaun Watson last week, I think Brandon Cooks was a little bit of a squeaky wheel, and we all know a lot of times when wide receivers are squeaky wheels, they get fed the very next week. And I think I speculated that was going to happen. And hey, it ultimately paid off. He did get a lot of work. I also think Randall Cobb, very interestingly, is, he disappointed us in that first game. Sometimes our first impression is what sticks. But ever since then, he's been pretty consistent as a solid low, maybe a low ceiling, but a high floor option with bye weeks coming up. And, maybe COVID options, things like that. I think he's a guy to keep around. Make sure you keep him on your roster during this time, because I think he could end up being a guy that is a good fill-in to give us a low floor during those bye weeks.
Okay, Jonah Smith is going to eat this week again. He is in the top 3 in, I think it was yards per game or yards per catch or something. Right now, he is absolutely destroying it. And without McKinney in the lineup, he is going to absolutely be a thorn in Houston's ass going into this week. It's going to be a tough matchup for Houston as far as covering that tight end. Jonah Smith is tough for anyone to cover, let alone if you lose your best coverage linebacker. So I definitely think you're looking at Jonah Smith as a top 3 tight end this week. Especially if you're one of those guys who sat back and waited for the tight end position to open up in your drafts and got Jonah Smith very late. He's definitely on pace. He's going to outperform guys like Zach Ertz this year. I don't know if he'll end up with more stats than a Darren Waller or your Travis Kelce's or your George Kittle's, but he's going to be in that top 5 talk by the end of the season. And basing on what he's done, now we've seen 4 games right now, so he's played 1 less than most players. That number is going to continue to grow. What I want to see, though, on the flip side, is I want to see if Brandon Cooks can put it together for a second week in a row against the Tennessee Titans. That's what I want to see. I want to see Deshaun Watson go, enough is enough. I'm going to put everyone on my back, and we're going to go here and see if they can give Tennessee a run for their money. Because right now, on paper, this is a mismatch favoring the Titans. But I do believe in Deshaun Watson. I believe in the weapons that he has. I'm not starting David Johnson this week unless I absolutely have to because of the injuries. But I want to see – I think Brandon Cooks could definitely do another 100 yards receiving and another touchdown this week. He came in last week. He performed well. I think he can definitely take advantage of guys like Malcolm Butler, who probably see a good chunk of them. And that's what I want to see. I want to see that Houston passing game get going against the Tennessee Titans because they're going to ground and pound them on one end. So they're going to need to put points up on their side just to keep up with the Titans this week. Moving along. We've got the Detroit Lions and the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is going to be an interesting game because I'm expecting some fireworks to take place. I think this is a low-key offensive powerhouse kind of matchup here with Gardner Minshew, Matt Stafford going head-to-head. And the weapons that are there, it's not because the weapons are so great, but both defenses are not very strong. They both can be run on. They can both be passed on. This is one of those games that I think you could pretty much start just about anyone and have some success. Jeff, what do you got for us?
Not too many injuries on Detroit's side. It looks like Desmond Trufant he didn't practice today with a hamstring injury, and it sounds like he'll probably miss. Biggest injury actually is on Jacksonville. A lot of people probably already heard DJ Chark. I can't concentrate with it. DJ Chark left the game early last week with another ankle injury. I posted about this earlier this week. He's had 5 ankle injuries. It's frustrating because they don't say which side, right or left, but he's had 5 different ankle injuries since being at LSU in 2017. So just a recurrent trend that you want to keep an eye on. I wouldn't be surprised if he misses this week. A lot of people were a little concerned about Laviska Shenault, but he was dealing with a hamstring injury Thursday, Friday last week and played. I'm treating this like a rest day for Laviska. So I think Laviska is going to be a main target underneath, and then Keelan Cole will be a good target because Detroit just, like you said, Matt, they don't have anybody who can stop them offensively. So.
Yeah, it's Matt, it's funny you mentioned this as being one for fireworks. I had this. My first note on this is going to be a shootout, and you typically don't think of Detroit Jacksonville as a shootout, but you're right. The main reason is it's the defenses. The defensive, they have been vulnerable to the pass. 11 touchdowns given up through the air for Jacksonville this season. In 5 games, 9 given up by the Lions in 4 games. Hey, so look, this picture right here, so 33, 30, 32, somewhere around here. Here's somebody who's internet savvy. Chase, I know you can do this. That meme going around that is how it started, how it's going. That's your how it's going picture right there. And you just need an original picture of that, and you're going to get a lot of retweets and likes on that. So that's a free idea right there. Somebody internet savvy that wants to take care of that. That right there, 33. That's your how it's going picture. So back to the shootout in Jacksonville. I love what you said too, Jeff. I think Laviska Shenault, he had the highest snap count. Speaking of rookies, we talked about T. Higgins. Laviska Shenault also led his team in snaps last week as a rookie. So some of those rookies are really starting to get worked in now. Like we said, the preseason, what would have been the preseason is now over. So we are now starting to see a lot of these guys really worked in, getting a lot of experience. And I'm starting Laviska Shenault with confidence. He looked like the best wide receiver on the field for Jacksonville last week. I think he, could potentially just completely Wally Pip DJ Chark for that number one spot there in Jacksonville. Unfortunately, a lot of it is injury related. I really like DJ Chark, but I think on the other side, and also James Robinson, by the way, yes, you're absolutely starting him. You can probably even a nice DFS play, but Kenny Golladay on the other side, I think he's your wide receiver one. This is a prime matchup for him. The Jaguars are giving up the most yards per attempt to wide receivers. He is a stretch the field kind of a wide receiver. You absolutely want to play him. For Detroit, the backfield is a mess. So here's my question for Detroit. This is my favorite what if for the season. Matt, what happens? How does the league look different if Washington does not cut Adrian Peterson like a week before the season? What does the backfield in Detroit look like right now if they don't have Adrian Peterson?
If they don't have Adrian Peterson, I'm thinking you're seeing right now at this point in the season a 50-50 split between Kerryon Johnson and DeAndre Swift. Now, right now, I'm going out in redraft, and DeAndre Swift is the guy I'm targeting right now because that role is going to continue to expand as the season goes on. Kerryon Johnson's already been faded out of the roster. I think he only had one or two carries last week. I don't have the numbers right in front of you right now. It wasn't very much. He wasn't in the game at all, or the last matchup, sorry. I think by week 8, week 9, it's going to be DeAndre Swift's backfield with Adrian Peterson coming in on the short yardage and goal line type situations. Without Adrian Peterson coming in, I think you see Kerryon Johnson try and carry the load for the first 2 or 3 weeks. Come on, try and be professional here, Calvin. Be professional. Good thing you're on mute.
Chase, come on, man. You can't make me laugh that hard. You got to put his comment up here.
So, yeah, like I was saying, it'd be if it wasn't for Adrian Peterson, DeAndre Swift probably would have taken this backfield by week 3. Now, saying that, I want to flip this a little bit. If it wasn't for Adrian Peterson and DeAndre Swift drops that touchdown pass in week 1, do you think DeAndre Swift rebounds as quickly as he has? Because I think Adrian Peterson's veteran presence and been there, done that, and how he has been a mentor to Alvin Kamara, been a mentor to Gibson here before the season started, coming in, and now he gets an opportunity to mentor DeAndre Swift. As long as he's not watching your kids, Adrian Peterson is fantastic for your team, right? So I'm kind of it kind of goes both ways for me, but I'm thinking if Peterson's not there, DeAndre Swift is probably already running this backfield.
We've now had multiple dogs join the show. That's probably my favorite part so far. There's a makeup, obviously, but then we've got appearances by both dogs. So you want to jump over into the Cleveland and Pittsburgh matchup here? Or did you have anything else you wanted to add about what you're expecting?
No, I'm pretty good there. Oh, the Lions Jags, like I said, I think it's going to be an offensive powerhouse kind of matchup here. Start James Robinson. You got to start. James Robinson's the man. I love James Robinson. I'm pretty sure I'd have his babies if he'd let me, because I'm so pretty. So we know how I feel about that. I like Visca. I love DJ Chark in this if he's ready to roll, if he's finally healthy again. I think he's kind of still battling injury, a little bit of an injury from previous weeks. Those soft tissue type injuries are going to take a few weeks to heal. Flip it on the other side. I'm going to take a little bit of a risk here because this is a game that we're expecting Golladay to ball out. I'm going to say this is not the bet, by the way. This is just my gut kind of coming in, and it's like I feel like this is going to be a Marvin Jones game. The fact that we're so high on Golladay right now, and I'm starting him everywhere that I own him, has me believing that this is going to be a Marvin Jones game because Marvin Jones is a guy who can wreck fantasy for you in a hurry because you never put him in your lineup unless you're in like a deep league. And this is just one of those things. I think this feels like one of those like 125-yard, 3-touchdown type games for Marvin Jones coming. You know what I'm saying? Like it's got me worried about starting Golladay. It's a fantastic matchup, but Marvin Jones is going to have some sort of factor in this that I think we're not going to like as Golladay owners.
Who's on Marvin Jones? Is it DJ Hayden this week?
I don't think.
CJ Henderson will probably.
I think CJ Henderson, who's been pretty good for his pretty solid so far, the rookie will be on Golladay more than likely, and then I guess that leaves Hayden on Marvin Jones, and oh man, that is ungood. So we're going to move along here quickly. We're going to talk about the Browns and the Steelers now before we get too carried away. I'm going to go. I got some makeup to get done here, so I'm going to go first here before I pass it over to Jeff on this one. We're looking at the Browns. We're looking at the Steelers. We're looking at what, 5-0 versus 4-1? Is that what we're looking at here? We're looking at the AFC battle for first place. This is going to be a dogfight in that AFC North with the Ravens, the Browns, and the Steelers. I still don't think the Browns are for real. They've gone into a more of a run game under Stefanski there. The Steelers are not a team you're going to run on. They're a team that you can't really pass on either because they get pressure from the edge number one, TJ Watt. TJ Watt is putting up defensive player of the year type numbers right now. And what he can do can absolutely wreck a game, much like the Khalil Mack back when he was with Oakland. How Aaron Donald can absolutely wreck a game right now for the Rams. TJ Watt is in that same breath when you talk about defensive players. I cannot wait, but here's what I'm watching. I'm watching Myles Garrett versus the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line. I don't care what Mike Tomlin says about they're not even thinking about that. You don't forget that shit, right? You don't forget that. I'm petty. I don't forget nothing. And these guys are professionals. And I guarantee you there's talk all week in practice about what happened last year. And I know this is a first-place matchup. You got two teams with one loss between them, and they're not going to do anything stupid to wreck that. But in the heat of the moment, I have a hard time believing that there's not going to be some sort of retribution going on. So that's what I want to watch. I want to watch that Steelers offensive line versus Myles Garrett. Jeff, hit us. Hey, bring that makeup here. Let's get going.
Yeah, biggest thing for Brown. So you made a comment that the Browns won't be able to run or will have a difficult time running. There's the duck face against the Steelers. They also lost Wyatt Teller, who's the highest graded guard. So that'll make it a little more difficult to run. I'm also looking to see how Baker Mayfield plays with the rib injury. Word is he's expected to play. He was limited in practice, but, I mean, he takes a shot from TJ Watt. He could end up leaving the game. So that's my biggest thing that I'm looking at. Also with Kareem Hunt, he's been able to finish the last two games. At the very end of last week, he started cramping. So that's just something to watch, especially in a game where they're definitely going to need him without Nick Chubb. On the Steelers side, Deontay Johnson, I don't know if he's going to play. He didn't practice. I wouldn't be surprised if he misses the game. He took a shot to the back during a punt return, and it was pretty bad. So I won't be surprised if he misses the game. People are still concerned about Juju. Like I said, he's going to be on the injury list, injury report, probably every Wednesday and Thursday for his knee. He's expected to play, no problem.
I think this is a game full of like very interesting storylines. This is, that's very interesting there, Matt. You got plenty of material if you're going to do a how it started, how it's going meme. So kudos on that. Yes, obviously the Myles Garrett versus Pittsburgh, that's a huge story. How does that work out? I think, Jeff, you mentioned one of my things that I'm looking at here too, Baker Mayfield and how he looks after the rib injury. I wonder, does Case Keenum get some snaps here if he does struggle a little bit. And Case Keenum, he's got some history with Stefanski. He knows the offense. He learned it last year. Could he even come in and look like the better quarterback? I don't think that's completely out of the realm of possibilities. And I think a lot of it is going to depend. We've got a little bit of an unstoppable force meeting the immovable object. To Pittsburgh, they have not allowed 100 yards on the ground at any point to any team this year. And then you got Cleveland, who wants to run the ball as much as anybody in the league. So what is going to give there? Kareem Hunt, for his part, looked like he was playing the Dalvin Cook role. I guess I'm not surprised to hear you say that he was cramping at the end, because he had the most snap that he had of any game this season, and took on we were wondering about Dearness Johnson. That was not he didn't take the Chubb role. Yeah, all that went out the window, and Stefanski went back to his playbook, I think, from Minneapolis, and Hunt played that role. So he was on the field a lot. I expect him to continue to be on the field. That is a tough matchup, but Miles Sanders showed that it is possible to still have a pretty good fantasy day. So I am expecting that. There's so many things about this matchup, so I'm talking a lot. Sorry, I'm going to turn it back over. But the wide receivers in Pittsburgh, how are the Browns going to adjust to that? If you've got Juju and you've got Deontay Johnson on the field, and you've got Chase Claypool, like, where are they rolling coverage? I mean, ultimately, it means good things for Ben Roethlisberger, right? Like, I expect it to be another really good Roethlisberger game. And as a Deontay Johnson guy, I have to admit the best ability is availability, and he, for the last couple of opportunities, has not been able to be on the field. Some of it's not his fault. I mean, obviously, you get a concussion, There's nothing you can do. You get hit in the back, you get hit in the back. So we'll see how that plays out for him. I think he's a tough guy. I think he's going to want to continue to be out there on the field. But now that you've got Chase Claypool, it's hard to put that back in the box once they've seen that. So I think it definitely dampens my expectations for him going forward. So, Matt, are you waiting to reveal something to us here, or are you off camera now? If there's a reveal, I'm going to be excited.
No,
That is.
What I'm trying to say is, in this matchup, I think you gotta be fluid here. You gotta expect the unexpected. And what I'm trying to tell you right now is, when you break down this film right now, you really have to think about it. So the DBs for the Browns are going to struggle mightily, whether Deontay Johnson's in this matchup or not. Can you guys try and be professional here? Like, seriously, like.
No, I cannot. I absolutely cannot.
So I don't know where my lighting all went, but now apparently, since I put my little got my hair done, it kind of went a little weird and fuzzy in here. So, yeah, I really got nothing else to add to this matchup. I'm looking for the revenge. I'm looking for that whole factor. I'm a petty individual. I want to see if the Steelers are as petty as I am. We're going to move on to the Washington football team versus the New York Giants. Jeff, what do you got for us here?
Mute.
Well, man, I got to take the loss on this one, because I was touting Daniel Jones all offseason, and my goodness. I honestly think it's more Jason Garrett's play calling, lack of imagination. But I saw a note. Well, one, Daniel Jones has 0 touchdowns since week 1. I believe. Nice, Matilda. I believe he's fumbled every single game except for week 1. And New York Giants are averaging 4.8 yards per play. And now their wide receiver 1, Darius Slayton, has a foot injury. So I don't even know who to invest in the Giants offense. I don't think I want to at all, unless it's a really good matchup for a healthy Darius Slayton. On Washington's side, so Kyle Allen is cleared. He's medically cleared. Ron Rivera already said he's starting. I love that for Terry McLaurin. This is a fantastic matchup for Terry McLaurin. One thing to watch for on Washington's side is Antonio Gibson did pop up on the injury report with a toe injury. Probably I would say 100% of the toe injuries that have popped up have been turf toe. So that's something I'm looking for. I don't know if it is turf toe, but that's what's typically been popping up. I like JD McKissick's upside here. What do you guys think?
Yes, Matt, I'm going to have a hard time being professional if you're going to wave your hair around like that a lot, but keep doing it, please. That's what people are here for. So a couple of things. The first thing I want to say is awesome to see Alex Smith on the field last week. It was really great to see him out there. It was also maybe the most uncomfortable I've ever been watching football. I love the fact that he was out there, but every time he took a snap, I was cringing and just hoping, Aaron Donald didn't flatten him. And maybe that's not even realistic, but it was, it just was, I don't know, it was kind of uncomfortable watching him play. Did anybody else feel that while they were watching it?
When Donald jumped on his back, I went right to the edge of my seat on that one. But honestly, he had two great escapes from a collapsing pocket. And he looked pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was busy checking myself out in the mirror here. I'm assuming we're talking about the great Alex Smith. And coming back from that horrific injury, the infection, the surgery, then another surgery, and the other surgery, and the pins and everything that goes on. If you've seen the pictures of that injury, whether he even got on the field or not, he is your comeback player of the year. I don't care who you are. What he's done is nothing short of a miracle to get himself back in the position that he's got himself into. And the amount of effort and just everything that he's put into it right now, I personally say I don't think I would have been able to do it. I don't think I could have dedicated myself. I probably would have rolled over after the surgery and said, you know what, I'm done. That's it. No more. I'm hoping right now, I don't know if Kyle Allen's starting. I don't know if Alex Smith is starting. I want to see what's best for Alex Smith going forward. If it means him starting and leading this team, I think Haskins, his days in Washington are done. I would like to see Haskins end up in Pittsburgh as the heir apparent to Ben Roethlisberger. I think that'd be a fantastic fit. But as far as Alex Smith goes, it's already a fantastic story. I want to see it continue. I want to see him go out there. I want to see him have success, not just be the Washington quarterback, but maybe get a couple wins along the way. And when you're talking about wins, this is a winnable game. The Giants aren't that good. The Giants are every bit as bad as Washington, except Washington has one thing that keeps them in these games. It's that front four, that Kerrigan, that Chase Young, that Jonathan Allen, that Deron Payne, Ioannidis. It's those guys that if they're in there playing and they're rotating through, they're as good of a front as any that you'll see in the National Football League. And that alone is going to give guys like Daniel Jones fits all day long. That's going to almost negate anything Devontae Freeman can do. So I don't think Alex Smith is going to have a huge game if he plays. I don't think Kyle Allen's going to have a huge game if he plays. I think you're looking at 225 yards passing, probably 75% of that to Terry McLaurin. But I do think Washington gets their win this week against the Giants.
Yeah, I think, so in the last game we talked about immovable object versus irresistible force with the Browns running game and the Steelers run defense. I think you have kind of the opposite here with New York's passing game and Washington's pass defense, because Washington pass defense has allowed 2 touchdowns every single week at least to opposing quarterbacks. And as Jeff mentioned, you've got Daniel Jones, who has 2 touchdowns on the season and none in the last, is it 4 weeks or 3 weeks? I can't remember how many games that they've played, but yeah, it's not been good for him. So what is going to give there? Is Daniel Jones going to actually be able to have a good game and put up some stats? I think it's 100% what you're saying, Jeff. I mentioned it last week. Jason Garrett has not called plays in the NFL since 2012, at least officially. I mean, maybe he had some role in it, but was not the play caller since 2012. And I think it shows. I think, you're right. It doesn't look like he's got the creative offense. It doesn't even look like an NFL offense a lot of times. And maybe he comes around. Maybe he's able to learn. But no doubt about it, this New York Giants passing offense is worse than it was last year. Everything about him is worse than it was last year. Statistically, the Giants have actually been pretty good against the pass, but I'm not convinced based on who they played. I think I expect it to be Kyle Allen starting. I do expect him to have a good game. I expect Terry McLaurin to also have a good game. And Antonio Gibson, this is a really cool thing for him. So it's not very often we see this, but he is getting a chance to sort of learn the position on the job. I mean, he really wasn't very much of a running back coming into out of his college career, gets drafted there, is able to play running back, and is kind of getting an opportunity to just learn it as he goes. Like there are going to be games like last week where the production's not there, but the volume's there. I mean, he's getting the workload. He is getting the type of touches that you expect from a bell cow 3-down running back. And I don't know that ultimately means that he's going to be a fantasy superstar for us this year. I mean, opportunity is king, so he's the kind of guy, maybe an RB2. But that could be really interesting to see how that plays out for next season and who he could ultimately turn out to be as this team kind of gets some more things figured out.
Yeah, I have to admit, Antonio Gibson looks a lot better than I thought he would as a true running back. And Scott Turner is using him really well.
Yeah, and like I said, I think if they can get themselves a few more offensive pieces there, I think Gibson's value will go up. I'm just a little bit concerned right now. The other pieces around, they got Terry McLaurin, they got Gibson there. He's more effective in the pass game right now than he is in the run game, but they're trailing in a lot of games, right? So he's going to see a little bit more action in the pass game. I'd like to see that volume in the run game pick up a little bit more before I get too excited about Gibson. I loved him coming into the draft. I loved everything about him. I thought he was a fantastic fit there. So we'll see if that continues, see if he continues that upward trajectory. So I use big words today.
One other note I had here too is on the Giants side, they lost their top edge rusher and run defender in Lorenzo Carter. Ruptured Achilles.
Yeah, Lorenzo Carter's been a little disappointing for me since he's come in. He's flashed at times, but right now, like opposite of the Washington Football Club, there is no pass rush for the Giants. So losing Carter is huge because they had no rush to begin with. Now they have even less of nothing. Is it possible to have less than nothing? Because that's what the Giants have right now, less than nothing. Speaking of teams that have solid pass rushes and can get after the quarterback, we're going to go fly with the Eagles and fly with the Ravens here in our next matchup. And this is a very interesting one for me personally because this again screams Baltimore by 10. It screams this. But Lamar Jackson has not been Lamar Jackson. And I mentioned this a few weeks back when I talked about Washington. Remember, I don't know if Calvin, if you remember, I was talking about Washington, and everyone kind of laughed at me when I said Washington will be able to contain Lamar Jackson, what he can do. And they're like, well, they don't have Chase Young. I said, it doesn't matter. They got enough pressure. They'll be able to contain Lamar Jackson. And that essentially is what they did. I think Lamar Jackson had maybe 175 yards passing that game and maybe 40 yards rushing. It wasn't a typical Lamar Jackson type game. Well, the Eagles, speaking of the Washington Football Club, have a very solid front four as well, a very good defensive line that should be able to contain Lamar Jackson and make him a pocket passer. The only problem with that is they cannot cover. So that front I want to see if that front for the Eagles can get pressure on Lamar Jackson quick enough that he can't get Marquise Brown downfield multiple times because the Eagles DBs cannot cover. We know that for a fact. Mark Andrews is going to be running open all day long, but will Lamar Jackson be able to see him? That's what I want to see. If the Eagles can get the pressure on Lamar Jackson, then I think this is going to be a lot closer game than people are thinking. But if the Eagles can't get that pressure, Lamar Jackson is going to get some passing numbers again this week, and you're going to see Marquise Brown go for a couple touchdowns. You're going to see Mark Andrews for a couple touchdowns. Miles Boykin might even throw one in there because that's how bad the back half of the Eagles defense is. And Jerry won't even know what's happening because he'll be looking in the wrong direction the whole time. So, Jeff, what do you got here? Like, is there any major injuries that are kind of sticking out to you here?
Well, I was just going to say, I think Chase Claypool showed exactly what you needed to do with Nate Jerry. Just run towards him. Horrible. You said the Eagles can't cover, well, their top corner, Darius Slay's in concussion protocol. So if he doesn't even clear, that's going to even be more lopsided towards the Ravens. I think Lamar is really limited by this knee injury. Last week was his lowest career rushing total that he's ever had. So I think you're right on point. If the Eagles can create enough pressure while still covering for long enough to get to Lamar, who may be less mobile, I think they have a shot.
And I did this myself. I actually benched Lamar Jackson and put Justin Herbert in last week. That's where I'm at with Lamar Jackson right now. Calvin, what are you looking for in this match?
Don't do that this week. He's on bye.
Yeah, don't do that this week. So this is all. Everything is converging against Lamar Jackson, the runner, for sure this week because, yes, like you said, Jeff, lowest amount of runs that rushing yards he's had in his career. Also, he faces a team that has given up the least amount of rushing yards to quarterbacks this season on the other side. So now they haven't faced anybody like Lamar Jackson, but I'm not sure Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson right now. So I wouldn't expect a lot from him on the ground. I do think Marquise Brown, even though, Matt, you are team never Marquise Brown, I think Marquise Brown is a smash play this week. I think he's a guy that you absolutely have to get into your lineup. Some really interesting comments. So you mentioned Miles Boykin, and Miles Boykin has had an interesting year. So I was noticing that Miles Boykin was playing a lot at the beginning of the season, but not really getting a lot of targets. And sometimes that works out well for wide receivers. Sometimes it doesn't. Like Damiere Byrd is an example where he's out there enough, all of a sudden he'll have these 9-target, 10-target type games. Well, there was interesting comments from John Harbaugh after the game. Wait, is it John or Jim? I think it's John, right? John Harbaugh? Yeah, John Harbaugh. Whatever Harbaugh brother it is that coaches the Baltimore Ravens, he had some comments after the game that they need to get Miles Boykin more involved in the offense. And I thought that was a really interesting comment from him. So, look, if you're really desperate, that might be a guy that you slot in if you just need a what the heck, throw him into my lineup, and maybe I get a Chase Claypool game out of Miles Boykin. Not saying that's going to happen, but yeah. And I think on the other side, definitely not excited about Miles Sanders. Can he strike gold twice and run through that Pittsburgh Steeler, Baltimore Raven gauntlet and end up with a couple touchdowns? I sort of doubt that. And I'm not even sure he's going to be very effective through the air. The Ravens don't give up a lot through the air to running backs either. So I'm not really sure he's the guy. Could Travis Fulgham continue to be a thing? There's just not a lot on Philadelphia's side to be excited about right now, and this could really be a very lopsided game.
Let's not kid ourselves there. Miles Sanders, all his rushing yards came on one play last week. He had that big 77-yarder, right? So let's pump the brakes on Miles Sanders and what he could do there. And when we're looking at this matchup, I don't think there's going to be any running there in Baltimore even.
Yeah, the only thing in favor of the Eagles passing game right now is Marcus Peters didn't practice and Jimmy Smith didn't practice. So for whatever reason, if they are out, then maybe Fulgham has a shot. I know Doug Peterson is kind of stubborn with his veteran usage. Alshon Jeffries expected back. Deshaun Jackson's expected back. So my main question is, we spent our waiver claims on Travis Fulgham. How much will he repeat? Probably not against the Ravens. Not what he did. 10 catches, 120 yards, and a touchdown.
Well, the good thing about him is I got outbid on him everywhere, and I threw a large chunk of change at him in all my leagues that I didn't already have him in. So we'll see. I'm kind of 50-50 on him here, just to watch the world burn. You know me, I like to watch the world burn here. And if I know people have paid up and ponied up to get him, I kind of want him to kind of come back down to earth now. Just laugh, enjoy it. Mostly because I didn't get him, right? So speaking of things that don't get going here, we're going to talk about two teams that just can't seem to get a W here recently. And we're talking about the Atlanta Falcons and the Minnesota Vikings. What kind of injuries we got there on this one?
I actually don't have much of an update on Julio Jones other than he didn't practice. I'll start on Atlanta's side. Given he re-injured it, I want to say Sunday game day will be 13 days from his re-injury. I would be willing to bet I hope they sit him out this week. They should have sat him out that Monday night game and just let him heal. But I would put him in that 2 to 3 week window where maybe he returns next week, but hopefully sits this week. Hayden Hurst popped up. Not that he's been a consistent option anyways, but he popped up on the injury list with a back injury. On Minnesota's side, reportedly, Dalvin Cook woke up and called Mike Zimmer and said, "Hey, I'm feeling 100%. I want to play."
Well, I'll tell you what. Here's the thing. When Alexander Madison steps into the lineup and runs for 112 yards, you miraculously feel a lot better, right? You got to get back into the lineup as quickly as possible. You don't want to get yourself Wally pipped. You don't want to get yourself Julian Edelman. Remember Wes Welker? I don't remember if you guys remember that clip there where Wes Welker decided to sit out because of an injury, and Bill and Julian Edelman was in there returning kicks for him. And Bill Belichick actually goes, "You ever heard of Wally Pipp, Wes?" He goes, "No." He kind of explained the story to him, and Wes is like, "Oh, okay." Well, Wes was gone, and Edelman took his place. So, yeah, Welker got pipped. And if Dalvin Cook's not careful, Madison's cheaper. Maybe Dalvin Cook gets pipped here at some point. They do a lot of the same things. Now, saying that first down opportunity there on the goal line last week, I think Dalvin Cook gets that. I think he has enough sense to give that good plant and just move over a couple steps and hit that on the right-hand side. But what do I know, right? So that's why we're here talking about it. They're on the field playing. So I definitely think Dalvin Cook gets that first down, though.
And most importantly, that's why you're in that chair getting your makeup done. I think we have to keep that in mind as well. So I think this is going to be another frustrating week for you here, Matt, because I think this is the week you're going to wish you had a Kirk Cousins back, because this is probably the week he's much more likely to finish in the top 12 with some of the ugly games and the bad matchups and the bye weeks. Like, it wouldn't be surprising for me to see Kirk Cousins finish in the top 12, maybe even top 10 this week. The Falcons have allowed 300 yards passing in every single game that they played. They 4 touchdowns, 2 quarterbacks in 4 out of 5 weeks, 2 touchdowns to Teddy Bridgewater last week. Makes me wonder if Irv Smith is a little bit of a sleeper. If you have a league where maybe Zach Ertz is not doing hardly anything for you, and Irv Smith was much more involved last week. I wonder if maybe they started to figure some things out. He had not been super involved in the passing game, and all of a sudden he was. If Cook is out, I am starting Alexander Madison. If he is not out and he is playing, I wonder if that could be bad for him going forward. I mean, like you said, same thing we saw with Julio. He probably should have sat out that week. I don't know that I love it if I have guys that I'm counting on and they push it. Sometimes it is just better to take that week off, take that hit. On Atlanta's side, I'm definitely sitting Hayden Hurst if I can. Minnesota has been really good against the tight end, but they have not been really good against wide receiver ones. And I think this is, if Julio is out, Calvin Ridley is an absolute. I love Calvin Ridley this week. That first week where you saw Devontae Adams go off, that's kind of what I'm envisioning and picturing, because I don't know that much else really is going to work for Atlanta this week other than Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley is the straw that stirs the drink there in Atlanta right now. Hurst has been very disappointing so far. Todd Gurley, though. Todd Gurley is third in the league in rushing yards. My boy Todd Gurley. Everyone wrote him off. One-legged Gurley. No, I still love myself some Todd Gurley. I think Todd Gurley still is going to have success. I think he's going to have success against the Vikings this week. So I think you can definitely plug him in. Madison, I'm willing to put in with Dalvin Cook in the lineup. I'm willing to take a shot at Madison as a flex play here. I definitely think there's a high risk of re-injury here. I'm no doctor, but I did stay at a Ramada once. I don't think we're going to see Dalvin Cook near 100% in here. And I really do believe Dalvin Cook is of that mindset that if he doesn't get back in the lineup, he could lose that. I'm not going to say starting role, but he could definitely see significant touches taken away from him going down once he becomes healthy. Because what we've seen from Madison already in small doses is he can definitely carry the load. He did this for Dalvin Cook last year when he came in off of an injury. We know Dalvin Cook does have injury history working against him here. So Madison's definitely a guy I'm looking at here this week. I really want to see him have that, get that ball, get a few more touches, see what he can do against this Atlanta defense, because we know you can run the ball on him. So even if Dalvin Cook is 85, 90% healthy, I think they could both have very successful. Each of them have 100 scrimmage yards easily in this game, whether that's 60s to 70 yards rushing for Dalvin Cook and 30 yards receiving. And then the flip side for Alexander Madison, I think they can both touch that mark there very easily with the all-purpose yards going into this week. I also think Todd Gurley could have 100 yards all-purpose and a touchdown. So it's going to be interesting to see. But for Atlanta, who's going to be that? If Julio's out, will Russell Gage step up? Will this be a Powell-type game? Who's going to be that wide receiver 2 for the Falcons? We know who the wide receiver 1A and 1B are for the Vikings. And we both know that they're going to go off for 100 yards each because, you know, Cousins is going to be a QB5 this week just to piss me off because I'll never trust him again until next time I make a bet. You want to bet this week on Kirk Cousins?
Hey, I think that's a possibility. I think he's a top 12 guy.
Oh, you think he's a top 12 guy. Piss off.
Yeah. I just want to hear you give me a really good, you like that? Like a good Kirk Cousins soundbite.
Or should I just kind of throw this wig back on and give you a little something?
We need to like that.
Do you like that? Should I get up and do the Wild Bill from or Buffalo Bill?
That was great.
So seductive.
That was great.
Good Kirk Cousins. Speaking of quarterbacks I don't like, we're going to go check out the Panthers versus the Chicago Bears, and Nick Foles is going to suck again this week because it's Nick Foles, and Trubisky will come in and save this franchise yet. Mark my words, it will happen. If Trubisky did what Nick Foles did last week, he would have been out of the game. That's a fact. Nick Foles has not been very good. He has not been better than what Mitch Trubisky's been. Nick Foles is not the answer people are looking for. Put Trubisky back in. That's all I'm saying. I definitely think we're going to see, we've seen Darnell Mooney become the number 2 wide receiver there in Chicago, replacing Anthony Miller. I think that's been all but done. Anthony Miller's sadly been phased out of game scripts unless the Bears find themselves down considerably in a matchup. I'm trying to think some of the other things here I'm looking at here. The Panthers can get undefeated since Christian McCaffrey's gone down. Mike Davis comes in there, steps in. Team doesn't miss a beat. Teddy Bridgewater gets going. Teddy Bridgewater is a top 5 quarterback right now. And Rodney Anderson has moved DJ Moore as a wide receiver too. Things are upside down in the Carolinas right now. And I don't know what to make of this team right now. At 3-2, they're tied for first with both the Bucks and the Saints. But not all 3-2 teams are created equally. What do you got for us, Jeff?
Well, and on Carolina's side, they, as if their defense wasn't bad enough, they lost Kawan Short for the year, and then Brian Burns is in the concussion protocol. So
that's the one I'm watching right there. Brian Burns has absolutely wrecked some games this year. He's wrecked some plays. If he's healthy, he is a game wrecker. He's taken his game to the next level, and he's wreaked havoc on opposition there. So if Burns is out, this game changes drastically, in my opinion. Calvin, what do you got?
Yeah, I totally agree on that. I think this is my ugly game number 2 of the week. I think, we had number 1 earlier. This is number 2 because both defenses have actually been pretty good against the pass. Now, like you said, with those injuries, could that change things? It could. It's not going to change the fact that Nick Foles is a quarterback, though. So unless that's going to change and they somehow have somebody other than Trubisky who might be good, like I don't expect them to do very well. I still think this is going to be a very ugly game. Yes, Teddy Bridgewater is top 5 quarterback. I probably had Bridgewater as high as anyone coming into the season. I was a big Teddy Bridgewater fan, thought very highly of him. He's been very good. This is not the week to start him. Chicago has allowed 4 touchdowns, passing touchdowns in 5 games this year. I'm looking elsewhere. Maybe Robbie Anderson is still going to be a high volume target guy. So I'm probably starting him. I don't know that I have a choice but to start DJ Moore in the leagues where I have him, but I'm just definitely not expecting a whole lot from him. On the other side, David Montgomery gets the roll of the dice and lands on the Carolina Panthers, and he is auto start this week. You saw last week, one of the reasons why Todd Gurley is where he is because he is one of the teams that got to face the Carolina Panthers so far. They have been unbelievably dreadful against the run, against everyone except for Kenyon Drake, and that's going to continue this week. I think this is a week where David Montgomery starts helping you after some difficult matchups. This is going to be one that is a lot easier, especially with those injuries there. That even makes me even more optimistic about what he can do for our fantasy teams coming into this week.
So I have an unhealthy amount of David Montgomery, like an unhealthy amount. And I've been sitting on it because I can't get rid of it. No one wants it. No one wants to trade for him. So I've been sitting. Luckily, I guess it's the best trades I've made are the trades I haven't made, so to speak. I think Teddy Bridgewater may surprise you this week going against that Bears team. I think he's going to throw for 3 touchdowns here. I think he's going to continue doing what he's doing. Maybe not 3 touchdowns thrown, but he's going to have 3 touchdowns, whether it's in the passing game or rush for 1 here as well. This is probably more of a gut call than anything, but I think you're going to see DJ Moore continue to have success. He's like last week. He's going to bust off those plays. Mike Davis. I don't think Carolina's offense may be one of the best ones the Bears will see because of the weapons they have right now. And it's not as one-dimensional as it was with Christian McCaffrey. Now with Mike Davis, yeah, he does some of the things that Christian McCaffrey was doing, but now they're spreading that ball around a little bit. Ronnie Anderson is we'll call it the wide receiver too, because that's what he was brought into. But really, he's been fantastic. And I think as ugly as this game is going to get, I think Teddy Bridgewater might have a QB1 type week under his belt here after it's all said and done.
Do you think he does better than Ryan Tannehill this week?
Ryan Tannehill against the Houston Texans or Teddy Bridgewater against oh boy. See, now the matchup definitely favors Tannehill. There's no doubt about that. The Houston Texans are a much better matchup. But I do believe in Teddy B. So I think it's going to be close. I really think it's going to be close, despite how much more difficult the Bears matchup is for him. But I also believe that they proved their point against the Bills last week, and I think they get right back to running the ball down Houston's throat. And game script is going to be Tannehill may get his 2 touchdowns thrown, but it's going to be a heavy, heavy dose of Derrick Henry. I think this game is going to be much closer. I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to throw the ball a lot more. So, yeah, I think Teddy's going to have a better game than Tannehill.
How strongly do you feel about that?
We'll see how strongly I feel about it in a little bit.
Okay.
I'll have to think about this one because, yeah, I definitely don't want to lose this week.
On the Bears side, how much does losing James Daniels, how much does that hurt David Montgomery? James Daniels tore his pec. He's done for the year.
Yeah, that's when we talk about that position in particular, that's one that we don't talk about enough in fantasy, and how it affects everyone around, even how it's going to affect Nick Foles, right?
Yeah.
We're talking Nick Foles is going to have some adjustments here to make. And yeah, they say next man up, but sometimes next man up is not a good thing. And I don't think this is a good situation for the Bears to be in. So I think this probably affects Nick Foles and his ability to get the ball out deeper. I think you're going to continue to see David Montgomery used in the short passing game, much like you seen last week. I think he had 10 receptions or something ridiculous. He was like one of the top RB1s last week, despite only having like 30 yards rushing, but he had 10 catches. So his numbers shot up and the touchdown. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards it probably has more of an effect on Foles than it does David Montgomery because we haven't really seen David Montgomery run the ball so far. What do you think, Alvin?
David Montgomery is my absolute must start of the week. I mean, that's I think he is I think you start whatever running back is going against the Panthers, and he just draws that card this week. So yes, I don't care who is hurt. I don't care, like to me, this isn't the game where that's going to matter for David Montgomery.
Or does it? How confident are you in David Montgomery?
Pretty confident.
Would you put a Big Mac on it? Confident?
I might. I think it's going to be a running back 1 this week for sure.
Oh, running back 1 this week against Carolina, eh?
No, not the running back 1.
No, top 12. Top 12.
Yeah,
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You really should because there's like barely anyone playing this week. So he's got a really good chance at it if you think about it. We may circle back to that one. Jeff, you keeping track of these, eh? Speaking of teams that just can't buy a win, we're going to go quickly here to the afternoon games. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games to touch base on. So we're going to do our little rapid fire around the horn real quick to finish the afternoon. We got the Jets, Dolphins. What do you got for us, Jeff?
Jets, Sam Darnold's out again. Joe Flacco is going to be starting. Mekhi Becton is likely out. Shoulder still, and then Quinnen Williams on the defensive side. He strained his hamstring at the end of last week's game. He is likely out. Miami, no major injuries other than Kyle Van Noy. He's likely out as well.
Yeah, this is going to be pain for the Jets again. This is not the game the Jets are going to win. Miami's 100% coming high off of a win against San Francisco. The Jets continue to get banged up. They haven't got any reinforcements back in. Le'Veon Bell's gone. I'm trying to think here. Denzel, where's Jeff? Denzel Mims, I think, is off the IR now and is practicing as well. So we could see Denzel Mims come back in here soon.
He was designated to return, but they have not activated him yet. So that's something to watch. They need him.
They definitely need him. He definitely needs options. It won't matter because Flacco's playing quarterback. Anyway, this game is going to get ugly real quick. The Jets haven't even been in a game yet. Even the game they lost by 10, they weren't even in that game. Let's be honest. If you're looking for your survivor pick, the Jets are automatically your loser every week. The Dolphins are my survivor pick this week in all of my leagues, so check that out. I really got nothing to say about watching this. I just want to see, are we possibly, if this game gets out of hand, could Tua come in the fourth quarter for some cleanup duty? That's about the one thing I'm watching for in this matchup because I think this game's going to be over by halftime. Calvin, what do you got?
Just real quick, you guys touched on most of that. Obviously, you're not starting any of your Jets, but the Dolphins have actually only given up 7 touchdowns in 5 games, 4 of those to Josh Allen. So they've actually been very good against the pass when they weren't facing Josh Allen. So clearly, you're not starting any of those options in New York this week. I will say with Le'Veon Bell's departure, I mentioned last week to check your just to check your wire in your deeper leagues. Picking up Ty Johnson. I still think this is a messy backfield. Ty Johnson actually looked pretty good, I thought, for Detroit last year. And despite adding Adrian Peterson and DeAndre Swift, they still kept him around. Ended up on the practice squad after some other changes. But I think he's the running back that they believe in. He is somebody that Adam Gase mentioned as being part of the rotation. So, hey, crazier things have happened, and Ty Johnson could matter for us at some point in fantasy. Myles Gaskins is another guy that I'm really interested in. The Jets have allowed 2 touchdowns to running backs 3 out of 5 weeks, so I think that is – and actually Gaskins has been really involved in the passing game too, and they've allowed 6 or more receptions in 4 out of 5. So I think he's another guy that I'm definitely interested in plugging into my lineup this week.
Packers Bucks.
I'm playing one Jet, Jamison Crowder. That's the only Jet I'll play.
I like the way he works. Yeah.
Bucks Packers. What do you got?
Devontae Adams will be making his return, and possibly without the Bucks having Carlton Davis. Carlton Davis might be out with an abdominal injury, so that'll be a key one to watch. Chris Godwin on the Bucs side. Chris Godwin, he was stretching on the side, limited practice, mostly doing rehab today. Timeline-wise, I still wouldn't be surprised if he misses this week, comes back possibly next week. Mike Evans did not practice today with his ankle. Again, not concerned about him. That's going to be typical probably for the next 2-3 weeks. So Mike Evans will be a fine play. Jared Alexander would probably be on Mike Evans, and he's been banged up. So I'd gladly take Mike Evans if Godwin is out.
You know who the real winner in all this is? Robert Tonyan. He's going to have another big week this week. Mark my words for it. Huge tight end 1 week coming from Tonyan. Yeah, tight end 1. A tight end 1, not the tight end 1. Okay, let's get that straight. But Chris Godwin's out. Gibson's not 100%, or Gibson. Godwin's definitely out. Sorry, Evans is not 100%. Yeah, I think Packers win this one going away. We know Aaron Rodgers can perform with no wide receivers, so we're not going to worry about that too much. Aaron Jones he's had a week off. He's going to be healthy. He's going to be hungry. He's going to run all over the place. It is a shame about Carlton Davis. I think he's a good, young, up-and-coming corner, and I think he would have been solid on Adams. I don't think he would have shut him down, but I think he would have been solid. I want to go rewind real quick because I want to talk about the Jets again real quick. Ian Kelly kind of throws out at us. Do you think Crowder will keep up his current production? I think the answer is yes. I think Crowder is, I don't want to call him matchup proof, but he is the go-to guy in that Jets offense. He is the underneath guy. Denzel Mims is a big play threat when he'll get back healthy. Jeff Smith's been the big play threat right now. My boy Vincent Smith, he can do a little bit of everything too, but he's not quite ready. Jamison Crowder's already built that rapport with Sam Darnold, so when Sam Darnold's ready to roll, he's going to be ready to roll. And Joe Flacco will be looking for that vet to dump that ball off to. Any short pass is what you're looking for. He's a wide receiver 2 on the year in points per game. I don't know if he's going to finish as in the top 10, but I think he's definitely in that top 20 wide receivers. I think that's where you're going to find him for the rest of the year, no matter what.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you, and I do think he's going to keep up his production. He's got a couple of matchups that I don't necessarily love this year, but in the fantasy playoffs, he's got the Seahawks in week 14, which I love, and he's got the Cleveland Browns in week 16. Now the Rams have actually been really good against receivers, so they're week 15. So that's a tough one in there. But yes, I mean he's got some matchups that I like. The only problem might be if he gets Adam Gase. I hope he does not. But I love watching Jamison Crowder right now. There's certain guys that pop off the screen, and you say, like that guy's got juice. And every time I watch the Jets, I watch him, and I think, man, that guy, he's got juice. He looks good.
Now, the one thing that I'm really going to be interested for is the trade deadline, because Crowder is one of the Jets' few targets that you could go out there and get who still got a reasonable contract and would immediately help 29 other teams. So Crowder you talk about that fantasy football playoff matchup looking fantastic for him. I want to say pump the brakes a little bit because he may not be on that team for that playoff push.
Hopefully it's Adam Gase that's not on that team. Jumping back over to the Packers and the Bucks, just get in. The matchup doesn't look great on paper, but Aaron Rodgers is matchup proof. You're absolutely, you're starting him right now, and he looks. This Green Bay team, I think, is going to make a lot of teams look bad. They've been very, very good this year. I really like it. So, I do. So you talked about Aaron Jones running all over the place. I don't think he runs all over the place. I think he is very active in the passing game this week. The Bucs actually haven't allowed more than 60 yards on the ground at any game this year. And they've played some pretty good teams. So
that stopped this week.
Yeah, but I don't think I think he's going to be more active in the passing game. Aaron Jones has the kind of skill set that I can absolutely just see them look at it and say, we're going to get him involved through the air, because actually the Bucs have not been very good at holding running backs down in the passing game. So that's just my gut feeling on that. I mentioned Ty Johnson with the last game. How about Tyler Johnson in this one? I mentioned him last week too as a guy that I was looking for. He looked amazing. I just saw he was PFF's top-ranked wide receiver in all of college football last year. Scotty Miller played in this one, and Tyler Johnson out-snapped him. He actually looked really good on the targets that he got. He had a catch and run where he was breaking tackles and looked really good too. A lot of things to be excited about. Obviously, Mike Evans is going to get the largest workload, but Tyler Johnson was had the second most snaps on the team last week, and I'm definitely excited about what he can bring to that offense.
That was mostly due to Scotty Miller entered the week with hip and groin injuries, so he was limited a little bit there. But I mean, Johnson looked great.
But Scotty Miller is also limited in ability compared to Tyler Johnson too, and I think that's one of the things. Like, yes. And 100%, you're right. Injury is why he wasn't on the field as much. But you also start to see the juice that Tyler Johnson has, and you start to say, like, hey, maybe this is a guy I want to keep throwing the ball to if you're Tom Brady.
100% agree.
I think the Bucs like Tyler the Bucs like Tyler Johnson. They've hung on to him. They brought him in. There's reasons why they did all this. PFF you can talk about that college grade. Anyone who watched his film knew that he did not have that breakaway speed that you're looking for in the wide receiver position, but he was still able to gain separation, and that is the key. He's always been able to find a way to get separation despite not having the athletic traits that you're looking for. And that is key, especially when you're talking about someone like a Tom Brady, and he's looking for that. All he needs is that, like Gale Sayers used to say, give me 12 inches of daylight. All he needs is 12 inches of separation, and Tom Brady is still a good enough passer to hit him on that every single time. While we're kind of talking here, Bucks, real quick, Eon's going to hit us again here with a little Jamal Williams information. Jamal Williams played a big role last week in the passing, or last time the Packers were on the field there in the passing game. Now, he does mention that Adams was out during that game as well. So Jamal Williams, Robert Tonyan, all these guys got a little bit more into it. It was like a different type of Packers offense than what we're used to seeing once. It's like the Packers, like, you know what? let's try something different. Let's just throw to our running backs and our tight ends all game and see what happens. Well, the result was pretty good. Now it puts that into teams' heads what they're going to do. I've always loved Jamal Williams. Calvin, you know as well as I do, I'm on Team Jamal. Like, the guy talks about being a mermaid, being a big fan of Frozen, and some of his post-game interviews are fantastic. He had another one here. He was doing a Zoom call, and the Zoom call got dropped, and he kind of made fun of the guy that was asking the question about not paying his internet bill. So I want to see Jamal Williams play a bigger role in this offense. I just am afraid to put him in my lineup because even though the Bucs struggle against running backs the pass game, it always puts me uneasy. If you're in a deep league and you're looking for a flex play, Jamal Williams is worth a shot, but I'm hesitant on putting him into my lineup.
I knew you weren't going to pass up an opportunity to talk about Jamal Williams there, so that's my favorite part of that.
Yeah, exactly. You know me. I love me some Jamal Williams. Rams 49ers. Are we seeing the Rams 49ers? My big takeaway here, real quick. Sorry, Jeff, I'm just talking over you. My big takeaway from this is the 49ers empire only lasted one season, and now it's coming crumbling down. And the only time the Giants, the only time the 49ers can win is in New York. They beat up on the lowly Giants. They beat up on the Jets. They've lost their other three matchups, and the Rams are coming on strong. We don't know. We know Garoppolo, if he gets a chance to play, he's still not close to 100%. C.J. Beathard is a fine backup quarterback, but he's not a starting quarterback. Nick Mullins, I think, had like a breakdown his last game he started. The 49ers are banged up. Mostert's finally back. He looks fantastic again. But we're talking about the Rams here. We're talking Aaron Donald. If you're not a top quarterback, you're going to be in a world of hurt. He'll put you in that hurt locker pretty quick. I like the Rams to take this game easily. And I think the 49ers are actually 3.5 favorites going into this, which still boggles my mind because we have not seen a good 49ers team yet take the field. Jeff, what do you got?
So I don't know if you know this, but I'm a Niners fan. So all of that was very painful.
But true.
But very true. I hope they don't play Jimmy G, honestly, because our O-line can't stop anybody. And with Aaron Donald coming, I mean, Jimmy G's ankle is just going to fall off. So Niners are starting their cornerback 4, 6, and 7. So I'm pretty much playing every pass catcher on the Rams. Quan Alexander will be out. He has a high ankle sprain. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks. It's going to be Drake Greenlaw, who's still a good pass coverage linebacker. I know there's been some hate on Tyler Higbee lately, but honestly, I'd be okay starting him too. I don't know if I'm starting anybody other than Mostert on the Niners.
Calvin?
This is my ugly game of the week number 3. I think this is just another one that I'm probably avoiding most of the players on there. Even on the Rams side, the 49ers, yes, they looked really bad against the Dolphins last week, but only 6 touchdowns given up through the air this year. 3 of those Ryan Fitzpatrick this week. I guess we'll see if that's a trend or not, but only 3 in the other 4 games. So they actually were pretty good, and they've been really good against the tight end. I've been a Tyler Higbee guy, so I'm going to go against you there, Jeff, and say I'm probably not starting him this week. And on the other side, man, the Rams have been unreal against the pass. I did not realize until digging into it. They've been very good. Only 5 touchdowns allowed, but 4 of those were to Josh Allen. That came up a little earlier. 4 of those to Josh Allen. Josh Allen, until this past week, was matchup proof, apparently, and then it all came crumbling down against the Titans. But yeah, only 1 touchdown other than those 4 to Josh Allen that the Rams have given up through the air. So yeah, I don't care who's starting at quarterback. You're not plugging him into your lineup. That lowers completely my expectations for what Deebo Samuel or even Brandon Ayuk could do outside of a desperation type play. As far as the Rams running backs, Malcolm Brown his snap count was down again this week. Now, some of it was some garbage time last week, but Cam Akers actually led the team in rushing and got 9 carries. Obviously, I know Matt loves to see that. I do think it was garbage time, but hey, he looked really good, and you'd like to see that coming back from the injury, being able to get out there. I think he ultimately dominates this this backfield at some point this year. I'm not expecting it just yet.
Yeah, McVay did say, oh, Matt, if you're talking, you're on mute. This is a perfect time for me to talk. McVay did say Akers is going to be getting more work as well. So it's going to look more like a split backfield, which Darrell Henderson was playing great and getting some points. I think he got 22 last week. So that probably won't happen again this week. It's going to be more of a back to the committee.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, except Cam Akers is better. Now we move on to our that was our Sunday night football. Now we go into our doubleheader Monday night football. Chiefs, Bills. Which Bills team do we see? Which Chiefs team do we see? They're both coming off big losses this week. One lost to Titans, the other's lost to the Raiders. If you remember last week, I'm going to toot my own horn here against the Raiders. One of the things we were watching for last week with the Raiders game is what they can do with Henry Ruggs back in their lineup. I mentioned they were undefeated with Ruggs in their lineup. They're still undefeated with Ruggs in the lineup because he changed their offense so much. Now, why am I bringing up the Raiders? Because, A, I don't miss an opportunity to ever bring up the Raiders. But the Bills field stretcher, and Jeff's going to probably bring this in too, Smokey Brown missed a game against the Titans. He changes that offense, not being able to stretch. Gabriel Davis is fantastic. Stephon Diggs is fantastic. Cole Beasley serves his purpose. John Brown is a guy who stretches the field for the Bills. And much like Ruggs, if he's not in the lineup, that Bills offense changes drastically. Now, on the flip side, another field stretcher, Sammy Watkins, is also not going to be playing for the Chiefs. So you got two of the, and again, Calvin, you know me, never Sammy. So it doesn't really, I really don't care. But those are two big bodies that are missing out of both teams' lineups, especially in the offensive game and how they work that offense, because the Chiefs' offense is not quite the same without Sammy Watkins, much like the Bills not the same without Smokey Brown. Jeff.
Yeah, I agree. And this is another one of those weeks where everyone's going to wonder, is it a McCole Hardman game now because Sammy's out? Could be, couldn't be. Who knows? The good thing for the Bills is Tre'Davious White is likely back, so that'll help them. On Buffalo's side, I'm not expecting John Brown to play. There's a video that popped up Wednesday where he caught a pass in practice right in the end zone and then started limping off. So I wouldn't be surprised if he misses at least one more week. So that's going to hurt him. I agree with you on that one.
Calvin, what are you looking for in this game?
Well, last week we called the Chiefs a slump buster for Josh Jacobs, and that worked out pretty well. He did well on the ground. I think Devin Singletary, he's another guy probably in need of a slump buster, and he get the Chiefs to show up. I think that could be a really good thing for him. I also said one of the things I'm going to be watching for in the game last week is, does McCole Hardman out-snap Sammy Watkins and Demarcus Robinson? And he did. He had the second most snaps on the team at wide receiver. I really like to see that. He needed to be on the field more. If he's on the field, he's the kind of guy that I think is a playmaker and can make plays. So even though Buffalo kind of comes across as being a scary matchup, they really haven't been that scary of a matchup. So I think McCole Hardman could be a good play. I think Travis Kelce is going to have a huge game. I don't care what his price is on DraftKings. He's the tight end that you're going for. Buffalo's been god awful. Maybe the Saints are the only team that have been worse against the tight end this year. He's smash play. You're definitely getting him in there. Real quick note. So the Chiefs have actually allowed the second least amount of receptions to wide receivers. That's completely counterintuitive. They're a team that has played with the lead a lot this year, and you expect them to be passed on a lot. They just have not. Teams have been able to run the ball, been able to run it effectively, and their secondary has been very good. So, yeah, I think Stephon Diggs probably draws a little bit more coverage with John Brown out, and I would even lower my expectations for him.
Well, the Raiders exposed the pass defense there last week, but that's because they had a field stretcher. And I think that's going to be the key. And like I said, Chiefs side of the ball, they've got multiple field stretchers out there. And I don't know if the Tre'Davious White will make a big difference with Tyreek Hill. I don't think you're going to see Tre'Davious White on Tyreek Hill in any way, shape, or form. You're probably going to see him with McCall Hardman. So that'll be an interesting matchup. Tyreek Hill's more of that slot guy, two-way go. Man, I don't know how you're going to – I still see the Bills – if Josh Allen could throw for 4 touchdowns in this game and get himself back into that MVP race, because I had him and Russell Wilson neck and neck until last week happened, and now it's Russell Wilson one step further, Mahomes at 2, Josh Allen at 3, so we'll see what's going on. But one of the things here that Eden's talking about here is Le'Veon Bell to the Chiefs. We touched on this a little bit earlier. It's a distinct possibility. I want to see it because I personally like to watch everything burn. That's my prerogative. I enjoy chaos. I have like 9 kids under 12 under my roof right now. So you know what? The more chaos, the better. I'm comfortable. Some people were live in chaos. I was born into it. So we'll kind of go with that. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, this matchup, I don't like it for him. You're talking about you traded for Clyde Edwards-Helaire and how that's going to affect with Le'Veon Bell possibly going, but I'm not a big fan of if Le'Veon Bell ends up with the Chiefs. I think that's going to hurt Edwards-Helaire because his biggest addition is in the passing game, because I'm pretty confident I could catch Edwards-Helaire from behind, and I've got like 2 bad hips and 2 bad knees to work with. But honestly, Bell's got more talent than Edwards-Helaire, in my opinion, even at this stage in his career. Yeah, I said it. You just worry about your Saints and your LSU Tigers stuff in the background. Now, saying all this, I'm completely biased and I hate Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'll be honest about it. I hate LSU players. That's another general thing. Jamarcus Russell wrecked it for all of them. But, yeah, if Bell ends up in the Chiefs, that is an ugly, ugly thing for both Bell and Edwards-Helaire. Great for the Chiefs. They get more weapons, but horrible for fantasy.
Yeah, totally. And I'll just add there, it kills Bell's value. I think there's this excitement over the Chiefs. So if you can capitalize on that and sell Le'Veon Bell, this is an opportunity to do so. Depending on what you can get. But I mean, like, I think he would almost lose all of his value going to that team. And I wonder if he would even do it, because one of the things he said is he's interested in what his role would be. And I don't think he can trust that he's going to have a big role with the Chiefs. No matter what Andy Reid, I guess, the sweet nothings he would whisper into his ear. One of the things that frustrated me last week, Andy Reid does this every now and then where he just outsmarts himself. The Raiders were terrible against the run. He starts off, first 2 carries for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he gets like 28 yards. He only rushes 8 more times for the whole rest of the game. What in the world was he thinking? And all he had to do was keep turning around, handing the ball off. I bet if he had a redo, he would double Clyde Edwards-Helaire's carries. And probably if they do, they win that game.
Yeah, no, they don't. Moving on. Cardinals, Cowboys. Here you are. You want me to throw a guy who's going to be better than Ryan Tannehill? Andy Dalton is going to outscore Tannehill. He's going to outscore Bridgewater. He's going to put himself up into the top 10 quarterbacks, easily a QB1 this week in his first start of the season. Why? There's too many weapons there for him to worry about. And the Cardinals offense is good enough to make the Dallas Cowboys defense look bad again. So much like Dak having to throw for 425 yards and 3 touchdowns in every game, Andy Dalton's going to have to do the same thing. He can do it. Now, we talk about Kirk Cousins and his primetime treehouse of horrors. Andy Dalton lives that same nightmare over and over and over again every primetime matchup. So I'm willing to say, though, with the star on his helmet, Andy Dalton becomes a star on Monday Night Football and lights it up for QB1 type numbers. What says you, Mr. Hobbs?
Yeah, I think that's really good. I like it when you put something on the line for bad QBs, and I think this absolutely fits into that category again in prime time. We all get to watch it and cheer. I like it, and I'm willing to go. If you want to just say him versus Tannehill, or you want to say him as a QB1, I'd rather say him versus Tannehill. I think Tannehill's my guy that I think has the right matchup there.
All right, Eric.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the matchup. Jeff, you're going to get in on this here too. The matchup for this week. So we're going to call this the Big Mac Smoothie Challenge. We had the Makeup Challenge, which I paid off my debt to society. This matchup is going to be between Andy Dalton and that other guy, Ryan Tannehill, to see who outscores whom. And the loser of this challenge will have to take a Big Mac, put it in a blender, turn it into a smoothie, and chug it on the live stream. And trust me, it's disgusting. I mean, soggy meat, soggy bun. Can you imagine? I'm already gagging on this. I do not do soggy bun. Like we like to steam our hot dog buns, but if my bun gets like too soggy, I cannot eat it. Like the texture throws it completely off. So this is an absolutely disgusting challenge, but I'm not worried about it because Tannehill is going to make you eat soggy buns.
I like it. I think this is a good. I think this is a good bet. I think Tannehill versus Dalton. We both are kind of leaning on some bad quarterbacks there, and I think both of them probably do end up in the QB1 conversation this week. So
that's what's going to make it the interesting part because I think they both have the matchups and the talent around them to both be QB1s this week. So this is where it's going to get really interesting.
Top 6 even.
Yeah, I think that's very possible.
All right, so you're obviously leaning towards Andy Dalton, and I guess if I'm making the case for you, it's you expect he's going to get a high volume. I mean, that's the way that the Dallas offense has been. He's obviously got the wide receivers. He's got Amari Cooper. He's got CeeDee Lamb, who's been incredible, and then Michael Gallup, who made some unbelievable plays for him at the end of the game. Michael Gallup actually played 100% of the snaps last week. He's on the field a lot. He has not gotten the target volume that you like to see, but some of those late heroics help Andy Dalton and his, confidence and his trust to throw the ball to him more. I think it definitely could. On the flip side, he's Andy Dalton, and he does not do well in primetime. So I think that is something that you're looking for there. They could just turn around and want to hand the ball off to Zeke a lot more. Ryan Tannehill, the reason why I love him is the Houston defense, 9 touchdowns allowed, no interceptions. I think for what he wants to do, there's a lot. I think Jonnu Smith is really good. Having Brown back in the lineup, A.J. Brown, that's going to help him a lot too. So I think Ryan Tannehill's the guy that you want if you're choosing between the two.
So here's the 2 things. One, I'm going to cut Jeff off here real quick.
Okay.
Andy Dalton, better supporting cast, better playmakers, better game script in his favor because their defense can't keep up. The negative, primetime Andy Dalton can be bad, like real bad. Ryan Tannehill, game script could be the complete opposite where it's run, 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 run. The good thing with Tannehill is he doesn't turn the ball over. So you're not going to get those negative plays that Dalton may end up getting. So that's where it's going to get interesting. Which of the negatives can be taken out of the game? And if Dalton can keep the turnovers out of it, which is non-primetime Andy Dalton, then it might be a little bit different. But like I said, I'm not 100% confident in Andy Dalton in primetime. much like I shouldn't have been confident in Kirk Cousins on prime time. But you know what? This is a new stage. This is the Dallas Cowboys he's with, not the Cincinnati Bengals. So we'll see. Jeff.
Mike McCarthy, Marvin Lewis. I'll pick Mike McCarthy in that. Arizona, no Chandler Jones.
Which is good because half of the Cowboys line's been beat up too, right? So
Cardinals have not allowed a 300-yard passer yet this year, even though the matchup.
Stop your numbers. Stop using numbers.
Paper, they haven't allowed a 300-yard passer.
They also haven't been up on a team by 40 points like they will be this week.
So I also want to Ian apologized to us for tuning in late. I think maybe we should apologize to him. It's very possible he tuned in and just saw you in makeup and has no idea why. And I just think the possibility of that is hilarious to me. It's great.
Well, like I said, my phone's been blowing up here, and my sister's tuned in, and she says, "You're making the family proud." That came across, so thank you for that. Well, if I have to chug a soggy Big Mac down next week, and the worst part is I'm not shaving, so it's gonna be like there's probably gonna be like chunks in my mustache and in my goatee, and yeah, it could get ugly. I may have bitten off more than I could chew on this one. And with that, I think we're done.
Good thing is you won't have to chew it. You will simply be able to. Please put up Ian's last comment.
So
that's the way of the show right there.
If anyone's tuning in, just a quick recap. One of the things we do is we preview each and every game. We give you a couple little hits from each one of us about each matchup. We do come up with a new challenge every week and a humiliation kind of punishment to go with it. Last week was the makeover challenge, in which I thought that Kirk Cousins was going to be a QB1. Obviously, that did not happen. That's why I was in drag tonight. This week, it's Andy Dalton versus Tannehill to see who's the better quarterback option for you. The loser is going to have to drink a Big Mac smoothie on the show, which is going to be disgusting. So you're going to want to tune in each and every week to see what kind of stupid-ass challenges we come up with and to see who has to suffer through it, much like mine. Actually, I'm not going to lie, I kind of enjoyed it. It was kind of like being pampered. I was even wondering if I should get my nails done, but I didn't want to go that far. And that concludes, before I lose my man card, another week, another episode of the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast. Jeff, you got anything for Jeff and Calvin? They're going to join us each and every week. Jeff, you got anything you want to sign off with?
No, just thanks for having me again.
Calvin?
You'll be able to see all of my Viper strikes on DynastyVipers.com by tomorrow, the things that I'm looking for in week 6, and some more notes that we didn't cover in this one. And I'll follow up with a couple of them on Twitter as well. So find me there at Calvin and Hobby.
I got my V gear on tonight, boys. I got Chubb on my fantasy football team. You all know I like Nick Chubb. I love the way the Chubb hits the holes. Go check out the guys there that with Viridian there. They do some good stuff, some good clothing. There it is again. Check them out on the Twitter machine. Viridian Global. Catch you later. And we are gone.